So we're trying to understand why these international organizations at all matter in context of India. If India is a sovereign country by its all might, then why do these external organizations, these international organizations, matter in context of India? To understand that, we'll have to understand that these arenas are arenas of power. These organizations are arenas of power. These organizations, international organizations, are made up of various blocks together. These are various sovereign countries in their own might clubbing together and forming these blocks or organizations. So India might be sovereign in its own right. We might be all powerful in our own domain, all sovereign in our all territories. But then again, the 21st century has mandated something called as globalization. This globalization has taken over so much that supply chain lines in every aspect of governance, in every aspect of trade, in every aspect of commerce, in every aspect of internet is connected at an unprecedented pace. So because we are connected at such an unprecedented level, it becomes important, and the business transactions of every sort are transnational. It's important for India to engage with these international organizations. Again, to protect the sovereignty and strategic autonomy of India, it's important that it engages with these international organizations. And it's also important because India needs to shape global norms rather than merely follow them. We are an ancient civilization. We are an emerging, almost emerged economic might. India needs to shape the global norms. We champion the cause of being the leaders of the global South. And in that aspect also, India needs to shape global norms to represent the global South interests. And because we need to engage moreover, because reforms are outdated. These power structures in the world, you might have seen that in the recent Davos conference, World Economic Forum, which was held in Davos. You might have seen this argument being proliferated about the current global system losing its relevance and more voice to be given to the global South. And India champions itself as the leader of the global South. So in that aspect, it becomes important for a country like India to engage with these international platforms. Now, India's engagement in this context has shifted from rule taker to rule shaper, and now to reform demanding power. So we have emerged all this time. We have emerged from something called as the rule takers. We would directly follow whatever the international powers would, international organizations and international blocs would actually dictate. And then we went on to being the rule shapers. And finally, we are at a place where we are demanding reform. India and the United Nations. Let's delve into understanding India's and United Nations engagement. So United Nations, the UN, it replaced the League of Nations. You all understand that prior to the United Nations, we had something called as the League of Nations. The League of Nations couldn't actually stop the World War II. That's why it was replaced by something called as the United Nations, so that we wouldn't have another catastrophe of the level that we already had seen in World War II. So India is the founding member and of the United Nations in 1945 itself. When the UN was formed, we played a critical and a very active role in drafting the United Nations Charter, and we vehemently debated in its charter. We have been augmenting the decolonization agenda. We had ourselves been a colonized state, so we, in the United Nations also, we have been championing this cause of decolonization. racial equality issues have seen some vehement contribution from the Indian side. India has always viewed United Nations as a moral and political platform for newly independent states. So it would give them the newly independent, newly decolonized states. This United Nations platform would give them leverage, and India has always vouched for that. India has also contributed immensely to United Nations peacekeeping missions. United Nations doesn't have an army of its own. It doesn't have its own army, but all the member countries of the United Nations actually they contribute towards the United Nations peacekeeping forces. So India has been contributing its bit to the United Nations peacekeeping, and India is among the top troop contributing countries in the world. So all those countries, I told you, since it doesn't have its own its own army. United Nations doesn't have its own army, so these member countries contribute, and India, being one of the countries, contributes the most amount of troops to the United Nations, to the tune of 250,000 personnel, which are deployed historically by India. 250,000 armed personnel. So that's pretty amazing in that aspect, and pretty significant. Our operations, peacekeeping operations with the United Nations have been in Congo, they have been in Sudan, in Lebanon, and in South Sudan. So we have been engaged in all of these peacekeeping missions along with the United Nations. Now, this peacekeeping enhances, this is not just a few armed personnel from this country and that country going together and engaging in these peacekeeping missions, but this has a very deep diplomatic, very big diplomatic resilience and diplomatic outcome. So India, it strengthens India's moral authority once India sends these troops to UN's peacekeeping missions. It strengthens India's moral authority and a claim for United Nations Security Council reform. We have been championing certain reforms in the United Nations Security Council. India wants to be inducted as a member of the United Nations Security Council. In that aspect, contributing these forces to the United Nations peacekeeping actually enhances that claim that India needs to be inducted. United Nations Security Council is this apex body of the United Nations, consisting of all the powerful countries in the world. Let's try and delve understanding a little bit into that. So its composition is that it has 15 members. United Nations Security Council has 15 members. 5 of them are permanent members. They are called as the P5, the permanent. And these 5 permanent members of the Security Council are United States of America, UK, France, Germany, and not Germany, China and Russia. So UK, France, Russia, China. These are the 5 permanent members, P5, and India intends to become one of the members of the, again, it wouldn't be a P5 then, it would be a P6 then if India is inducted into the United Nations Security Council. But then again, that would be a huge, huge development forward. If at all that happens. Now, it has 10 non-permanent members who are elected for a time of 2 years. These 5 permanent members, they are important in the sense because they enjoy something called as a veto power under Article 27 of the UN. So Article 27 talks about these veto powers. Veto powers means that they can veto a decision or a discussion. No discussion or no decision would be taken on that account. So there are certain structural problems currently with the United Nations in general and United Nations Security Council in particular. For example, the problems are that the United Nations Security Council that we have as of now with these P5 members, they reflect a post-1945 power distribution, but the world has changed a lot since then. After the Cold War ended and, the World War ended, and we had the new order of the world. So it still represents that. There's underrepresentation of Africa, which forms a substantial population and a substantial area of the globe. Now, there's underrepresentation also of Latin America. You've seen America recently taking unilateral actions in Latin America, where you saw the president Maduro even hijacked from his own country. One of the reasons, again, being so, it also points out to the fact how underrepresented they are at the international organizations like the United Nations. So it wouldn't happen otherwise. If there was representation, there would be much more censure to such actions if Latin America was also a part of United Nations Security Council. Then there's again underrepresentation of South Asia, which includes India as well, and India championing the cause of being the leader of the global South. So all these decolonized states and underdeveloped states, and most of which is the majority population of the world and the majority area of the world, that is not represented properly in the highest power corridors of the world, which includes the United Nations. So that's a very big issue at hand. So India has argued that United Nations Security Council actually lacks representativeness. It does not only lack representativeness, it also lacks legitimacy and it lacks effectiveness. So that's India's stance. And India has a case for the permanent membership of the United Nations Security Council. And the core arguments that India should be inducted as one of the members of the United Nations Security Council, the arguments that are being put forward are that we are the largest one of the largest populations of the world, let's say just behind China. So we're even going to overtake them by 2030. That's the postulation. But then again, that would make India the largest population of the world right now. Even we are the second largest population of the world. That means a substantial amount of people of the world not being represented at the highest forums of the world. So that's one argument. Then again, another very important argument that India reverberates is economic size. We are the third largest economy of the world in terms of purchasing power parity. Then again, we are a growing economic power. $5 trillion economies have been postulated in our recent economic survey reports. So we are a very massive economic size. We have been contributing to peacekeeping missions of the United Nations. We saw that, we understood that some time back. So we have been doing that. That also makes us legitimate enough. And not only contributing, we have been the largest contributor of the peacekeeping forces of the United Nations in all those Sudans and Sudans and Congos. So we have been engaged in peacekeeping missions of the United Nations Security Council. So that also leverages us to be a member of the United Nations Security Council. Now, we also have substantial democratic credentials as opposed to what is happening in India's neighborhood. India's democracy by far has been quite stable. There haven't been any major mishaps with the democratic structures. You saw that recently, even the guests at the Republic Day parade vouching that for India, that India has been a stable democracy. So you heard the president of the European Council say that out loud. So by and large, Indian democratic credentials again make it, give it leverage enough to be placed in the United Nations Security Council. Then we have time and again proven very responsible nuclear behavior. We haven't used nuclear weapons. Our nuclear weapons have been getting good rankings, and our management has been getting good, nuclear management has been getting good reviews from the International Atomic Energy agencies. So in that aspect also, India has showed responsibility in terms of handling of the nuclear power that we are. So these are the reasons that India champions as being legitimate for it to be inducted in the United Nations Security Council. Are we all good up until now? Understood? Good. Nice. So, because one way or the other, if you understand the core idea, then you can frame any answer and use bullet points from here and there to actually supplement your answer. So again, the scholaristic nature of exam is what you will have to understand. G4 groupings. The group of four. So India works with this group of four, Germany, Japan, Brazil, and India. So it's called the group of four, G4. And the members are Germany, Japan, Brazil, and India. So G4, there are certain demands that they have come together for, and G4 demands expansion of the permanent and non-permanent categories of the United Nations. So this G4 group, which comprises of all these important countries, major democracies, and major economies of the world, global powers in a sense. So they have clubbed together to form this G4 grouping. And G4 grouping works towards ensuring that they have been vouching for, in fact, the expansion of the United Nations Security Council P5 members to include these countries also, and then the G4 countries, and then also the non-permanent members to give more voice to the global south. So they have been vouching for that. Again, they have been vouching for something called as the veto reform, or the voluntary restraint. Veto reforms, because vetoes have been blocking major developments major decisions that would be implemented. Vetoes have been blocking them. So they are vouching for even reforms in the veto power. There are certain opposition groups. For example, there's this group called Uniting for Consensus, UPSC, and this group is led by Italy and Pakistan. So this is in opposition to India's stance of inducting itself into the United Nations Security Council. So there's this group called Uniting for Consensus, UFC, which is led by Italy and Pakistan. So that poses an opposition to India's stance and India's chances. Then there's this big factor of China, the China factor. China's ambiguous stance is something that is a concern and a worry for India. Reforms have been blocked due to P5's reluctance to dilute power. So these permanent 5 members have been reluctant, because then again, if other members are inducted into the highest powerful body which the world right now has seen, if they are inducted there on as part of the United Nations, then that might dilute their own stance. In that case, we have seen the reluctance coming from the P5, just because it would dilute their power. So India and the United Nations General Assembly. So United Nations, as we know, has many organs, one of it being the Security Council, the other being the General Assembly. So let's try to understand India and the General Assemblies, United Nations General Assemblies engagements. So India has used United Nations General Assembly very widely and very particularly in to raise issues like the global South issues of the global South, which India champions to be a leader of. India has used the United Nations General Assembly also in terms of advocating developmental equity. For example, India's stance on climate being that India supports something called as the shared but unequal responsibility. Uh, so, in that sense, we have seen that India has been advocating developmental equity, equal responsibility, shared responsibility, but unequal in its terms when it comes to climate, so on and so forth in other matters as well. So India has also used United Nations General Assembly to highlight the terrorism concerns, because India is hit directly and indirectly by terrorism. So India has been using this podium, this platform vehemently to actually get its voice heard and get the attention of the world towards this problem. United Nations General Assembly provides numerical legitimacy because it's all the states of United Nations together in that assembly. So it gives the numbers to India. It puts in moral pressure on the United Nations Security Council. Security Council being the smaller organ, if you want to understand it better, getting better conceptual clarity about it, just think of it like the Council of Ministers, the Parliament. And the Parliament has these important, so all the elected people form the part of the Parliament, and few important people are given these ministries who form the Council of Ministers, and from amongst them, very important ministries are given the cabinet charge, so they're called the cabinet. So you have the Parliament, then you have the Council of Ministers, and then you have the subset of cabinet. Same way, United Nations General Assembly, General Assembly has this subset of United Nations Security Council, which are few members from here holding important positions, a subset in that sort. So, since the General Assembly hosts all the members of the United Nations, so raising issues there and getting support from the members there means getting support from the world. So numbers matter there, and again, it helps to actually bring in attention of the world towards the matter at hand. So that is what United Nations General Assembly provides India. India has been also engaging with United Nations specialized agencies. So UN has various specialized agencies also. For example, the WHO, World Health Organizations. India is a major pharmaceutical supplier. Pharmaceutical industry is well developed. You have seen that recently also as part of the India-EU free trade agreement, that pharmaceuticals are going to be exported, are going to be part of the trade. So the tariff barriers are almost slashed. Indian pharmaceuticals are going to enter the European markets, and vice versa as well. So India has been contributing a significant amount of pharmaceuticals to the World Health Organizations. We also saw that in terms of the vaccine metri, the COVID-19 vaccine diplomacy that India undertook. We'll try to understand that later in our lectures. But COVID diplomacy, vaccine diplomacy is also something that we embarked upon, but that being a subject of a different lecture. India has played a role during COVID-19 vaccine supply also. This highlighted India as a global health as a global public good, and India being totally engaged in that. Another World Trade Organization, and India is a vocal advocate for food security. Food security, according to UN itself, means that the conditions where food is available, not just available physically, but economically also, which means that people have the ability to afford that food and food of their choice as well. So that constitutes food security according to United Nations. India has been vouching for food security. We have been vouching for special but differential treatment, which I talked to you about. In terms of climate also, we have been vouching that. Special but and differential treatment. We have been vouching for development-oriented trade rules. India has often clashed with developed countries over agricultural subsidies. This is something which I tried to make you understand in our previous lectures also, that India has been very much criticized for allowing subsidies in the agricultural sector. Although we understand the importance of agriculture in the Indian context, but India has been criticized by the global north for its, under the new public management paradigm, for its giving subsidies to the people. And why is that? They have been highly critical of the Indian state in terms of calling it a nanny state, undermining the very potential of the individuals by providing them subsidies. According to them, states should not. This is, of course, the capitalistic-led argument that the state should not provide subsidies. And that too, particularly in the agricultural sector. But India has been providing subsidies in the agricultural sector. It has even special privileges to the agricultural sector. For example, agricultural income is non-taxable in India. So in that context, also India is trying its bit to help its farmers. Then again, because we realize that agriculture is predominantly one of the biggest sectors in India, and it has emerged, so it has also emerged as a cushion for our workforce who went out of work because of COVID. We have seen, and the talks are still on about getting India to open up more in terms of agriculture, but up until now we have seen the government of India resisting that. But let's see what happens in the future. That's for future to uphold. But then again, these developed countries have been very critical of India over its agricultural subsidies. UNESCO and the cultural diplomacy. Now, India is not just a hard power. India is also a soft power. We understood that soft power. By India soft power, we mean all those institutions, all those acts, all those cultures, all those Bollywoods which influence other countries apart from our hard power. So these are those aspects which actually influence other countries' behaviors. For example, India's soft power would be Ayurveda. Bollywood is India's soft power. India's cultural is its soft power. So these soft powers India has been using through UNESCO and through its cultural diplomacy. India has used the World Heritage listings, cultural heritages, all the recognition of it to enhance its soft power. Now, moving on to India and the G20, the group of 20, where we have shifted from economic forums to governance platforms. G20 is this group of 20, just like we saw the G4, same way we have the G20. G20 is the group of 20. So these 20 countries clubbing together, coming together, formed in 1999. They came together in 1999. India became the leaders forum after 2008 financial crisis. It became actually the leaders forum after the crisis of 2008 financial crisis, because these were major developing and developed economies clubbing together. So they formed a substantial economic power. They are more representative than the group of 7. And then there's another group which we have, is called the Group of Seven. G20 is more representative because, again, because it is G20, because it's 20 countries as opposed to G7, 7 countries. India's G20 diplomacy, you can understand through the 2023 dialogue that we held when India assumed the charge of G20 presidency. The theme was Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. Sometimes these people ask you about the themes. So the theme was Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, and one future. The outcomes that we saw from this were that African Union was admitted to G20 as a permanent member. The African Union became the permanent member of the G20 at this summit. The focus was laid on development, climate finance, not climate change, but climate finance. So remember that. And digital public infrastructure. This became one of the major diplomatic successes. We have been talking a lot about India and global south, so let's try to understand how India positions itself. Although we have understood it up until now, just skimming through it so that we revise it. India has positioned itself as the voice of the developing countries through our ASEAN diplomacy, through our Look East policy, through our Act East policies. We've understood how India has projected itself as the voice of the developing South. So India intends to be a bridge between the North and the South. We have a substantial amount of our population still living below poverty line. But then again, we are an emerging and almost emerged economy in the world, which is now weaving 5 trillion in the recent times. So we are somewhat of a paradox, and that you can see here also, because we are using that to our advantage in the sense that we intend to be a bridge between the global North and the global South. The initiatives that we have undertaken for that we are the voice of which is the voice of the Global South Summit, which was conducted, and development-centric diplomacy that India embarks upon. The challenges, again, are many challenges in this aspect. The challenges are that Western domination of global institutions. Since the global North leaders, and the Western leaders in particular, they are members of the P5 of the United Nations and other forums, the G7s. So it becomes difficult for India because India doesn't have a domination there. So let's try to understand India and the multilateral reforms agenda, multilateral with other countries. India has demanded reforms in various international organizations like the United Nations Security Council. We've talked about that. We have demanded reforms in the IMF, International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization. So India has demanded reforms in all these aspects. India has argued that governance structures here must reflect current realities, just as we try to understand that since these reforms were made in 1945 and it is still the same. So these reforms need to be undertaken, and these have to be governance structure reforms which should reflect current realities and not the colonial legacies. So that is India's approach to it. I think this would be more than enough for today. Only 4 minutes left. Let's take it forward from here tomorrow. Guys, as much as you can, because these are mostly wherever it's important that you understand the concept, I do try to make it more elaborative, but then again, these are facts also. So for that, you'll have to refer to these PDFs time and again. refer to what are the developments that are taking place across you in the current times, and you'll have to add them to your notes as well. Okay. Okay. See you guys tomorrow. Let's call it a day today.